Ah, deer. Ah. We will get started in just a little bit. I want to open things up with some Christmas music. I'm doing a couple of final things off camera, and then we'll be jumping into this machine that belongs to Kathryn from the great state of Michigan. All right. What a horrible song to interrupt, but I'm going to go ahead and jump into things with this really fabulous new home model 2022 that was a gift to Kathryn from her husband John back in the 1980s. So, is a machine from the 1980s considered vintage? I would say yes. 1980s is what, almost 40 some years ago that this machine was purchased. I'll let all of you do the math. At any rate, it came from the 1980s. So let's just consider it a young vintage sewing machine, a young vintage sewing machine. And yeah, we'll get her humming along here after she had a little bit of a step back. Kathryn had taken it into I believe it was a sewing center in Lexington, Kentucky, before she was going to ship it off, just to see if possibly they could get it back on track. They made it worse. They ended up creating a huge drag on the motor because of a couple of adjustments that they made that were wrong. They also dried the machine out as well. Oftentimes, people will try to use a heat gun or other, temperature type things, a hair dryer, to try to loosen the machine up, thinking that it'll speed it up. What it does is it dries it out, and actually slows it down more. So this machine came here with some challenges, but workshop magic always seems to make it work, doesn't it? And now she's running just like a hiccup, and you're going to see her sew through a wide variety of different stitches. This machine, this Kenmore 2022, comes with, well, let's see, one all the way through 17, close to 30 stitches. And I'll see if I can involve you in picking some of those stitches on the different materials that I have prepared for this live stream today. And we'll go ahead and get this machine going. And but before we do that, let me invite you to have an opportunity to win something. Let me give you a chance to win something. Stephen from Guggenheim Professional Tailoring Shears recently sent Susie and I a number of complimentary sewing shears. These are the 9-inch ones. These are the ones that you saw me cutting this genuine cowhide just a moment ago on camera. It cuts, I mean, from the point you start until the very tip without any hesitation at all on leather, on canvas, on anything you put underneath these shears. And I want to offer to give away a pair of 9-inch shears. Now, a number of you in this live stream or watching this later have been the recipients of winning a pair of these shears, and you rave about them. You say there's nothing that compares to the Guggenheim shears. There's nothing that comes even close to the Guggenheim shears. And so when it comes to these, I think they speak for themselves. They just do a fabulous job. They make the job in the sewing suite so easy. They get the job done so quickly. And it seems like the more you use them, the sharper that they get. So I'm going to offer to give these away to the first person that can type a reasonably detailed description of who is the New Home Sewing Machine Company. What were their roots? How did they start? Were they a different company before and they kind of ebbed and flowed into New Home? Tell me a little bit about the history of the New Home Sewing Machine Company. Type it in the live chat. Be the first to do that, and I'll let the moderating team decide whether or not you nailed it. If you nailed it, you nailed it. I'll leave that up to Susie and Teresa and Tim and any of the other moderating team members that are here. But give me a detailed description of the New Home Sewing Machine Company. If they had other names, mention the other names. Talk about when they came into existence, etc. Okay? While you're doing that, I'm going to get a sip of tea that Susie prepped for me. And I'm excited to give these away. We will ship them anywhere in the world. So if you're joining us from Holland, if you're joining us from Germany, if you're joining us from Switzerland, wherever you are, Susie and I will pack these up. If you're declared the winner, we'll pack them up and ship them off to you so you can enjoy them wherever you are. Okay, a little bit more Christmas music since we're officially past Thanksgiving now. Oh my goodness. Hold on a second. Stop the presses. Are you all seeing that on the screen? Am I going bug house? Am I going crazy? Or have all of the people that follow cow country and maybe also love the state of Michigan and Kathryn and John and New Home? Do we have almost 2,000 people in the live stream right now? Am I losing my marbles? Can you all confirm that I'm not losing my marbles? Do we have almost 2,000 people in the live stream right now? Holy, they probably like the Christmas music, right? Yeah. Jiminy crickets. We haven't had an audience like that for quite some time, So I'm going to let the moderators kind of see whether or not anyone jumps into the mix and comes up with a good answer on the origin of the new home sewing machine company. If no one gets in it a little bit, we'll put these in our little store of things to give away. And I know Susie's going to be going through her Guggenheim items as well, and maybe donating some more to give away. So keep watch for that. Keep watch for those Guggenheim giveaways. We're so grateful for this company. We're so grateful for what they do and the quality that they put into their product and the way they stand behind their product. If you end up winning these, guess what? They've got a lifetime warranty. I don't care if your cat chews them up, they'll send you a brand new pair. I hope I'm not talking out of turn, Stephen and the founders, but they really stand behind their product. They truly, truly do. They love what they do, and they constantly improve on it. They're never happy with what they have today. They're always trying to make it better. And that says a lot about any company. All right, I'm going to pause that cool music, give you an idea of some of the stitches that Kathryn's machine has. These are some of the sew-offs that I sent her pictures of after the repairs were done to the machine. So these are some of the stitches you'll be able to pick from today. And we've got a fairly wide field of materials we're going to be sewing off on. And I'll show you the front of the machine too, so you can get a better glimpse of what number stitch you want to see. And then you can give us your input on what kind of material you want that stitch sewn on. We'll probably end up sewing on the same material more than once with more than one stitch, and that's okay. But these are some of the stitches that are on Kathryn's machine that John gave her back in the 1980s. Really quite exceptional. And I'll tell you something unique about this machine. In the 1980s, there was a movement, not only with New Home, but with other sewing machine companies as well, where they were starting to be green-minded. They were starting to think about recycling. And they were starting to think about, you know, if we have to dispose of a machine, is it going to be friendly to the environment? So this machine, interestingly, is not made out of metal. It's not completely plastic. Some of the housing on the outside is plastic, but it's made out of almost like a Bakelite ceramic material. In other words, it has no phosphorus in it. It doesn't respond to a magnet if you touch most parts of the machine because it is made out of a Bakelite ceramic type material. So if this machine were ever recycled, the body of the machine, the bulk of the outside casting of the machine would basically break into little pieces, little squares, if you will, and then it would be much easier to repurpose it for another product, if that makes sense. So it's a very innovative machine for the 1980s in the way they designed it to be eco-friendly, and they made it so that if a machine ever couldn't make it to the workshop to get repurposed and renewed, someone could recycle it and it would be environmentally friendly. I hope that makes a little bit of sense. But that is that's the reality on the composition. So it's not a light machine at all. If any of you have ever had ceramic type items, they're really heavy. So it's a heavy machine, but it's also a well-made machine without being made out of metal as far as the casting. The inside components, as Kathryn saw on the photos I sent her, unlike what the people that sold the machine to this Michigan couple back in the 1980s, they said it's basically a plastic machine. It's got plastic gears, it's got plastic this, it's got plastic that. You never have to lubricate it, you never have to service it. Well, that wasn't really true at all, was it? Because Kathryn saw, excuse me, Kathryn saw all the photos of the inside, the guts of this machine, and there's a lot of metal. There's a lot of metal forged into this machine. It's built very well. So you can't always trust, I hate to say it, but you can't always trust the people that you're buying an item from to be knowledgeable about that item, even if it's brand spanking new, depending on their training, depending on their company and how in depth they go with the sales associates, understanding the mechanics of the machine, the capabilities of the machine, etc. You may be misinformed from the very beginning, and that can sometimes frame and form how you end up using that machine until you learn otherwise about it. So I'm pleased to say that Kathryn knows a lot more about this machine than she did when we first met, and she's going to be able to use it for a lot more projects that she might have been more hesitant to do when they told her, plastic machine, plastic gears. Well, you've gotta always keep your mind open to learning new things about your sewing machine, don't you? Constant, never-ending improvement and learning the new capabilities, or in some cases, the limitations of those machines, like the one that we got from Canada, where they were using it in a way that really wasn't appropriate for that machine. So, at any rate, that's why we have a classroom, right? We have a classroom to learn from each other and to share our knowledge and to step away with new knowledge we can take into other circles on Facebook or Etsy or Pinterest or wherever it is. Okay? All right, let's start officially. Class is in session. And see if we can put this machine to work a little bit and show you some of the capabilities, the renewed capabilities of this machine. I think we'll start with some good old cotton, and I'll show you the stitches on the front. Well, let me show you what we have to sew on first of all. We've got some cotton with a stiffener, and I chose green because green to me is kind of a Christmas color. So we've got cotton with a stiffener in between for some of those more decorative stitches. We've got the genuine cowhide that you saw me cutting around the circle with the Guggenheim shears near the beginning of this. And we've got some U.S. Army grade canvas. We've got some velvet ribbon material. And I'll show you the original container that this came off of. I bought it at a St. Vincent de Paul for $1.03. 6 feet of it, 2 yards. And it's just absolutely gorgeous material to sew on. And then I've also got, I think I have a piece of this velvet ribbon material as well. Originally, back in the day, it was $4.93. We'll sew on some of that as well. It's a combination of velvet, and then it has a, what is it, a polyester? Yeah, polyester. It's a high composition of polyester and velvet. So we've got that to sew on today. I've got 2 layers of that. I've got some denim. 2 layers of denim. We'll be doing some stitching on the denim today as well. And then I've got some Amazon packing parchment paper. Amazon packing parchment paper to sew on as well. We'll go through some of that as well to show the strength of this machine. Does anyone want to guess as to the size of the motor on this model 2022 from the 1980s? This new home model 2022 has a pretty good sized motor. I'll give you that big of a hint. So if anyone wants to type some guesses into the live chat, go ahead and do that. And then I'll show you the stitches. You could pick out a couple of stitches. We'll lay some down on cotton, and then we'll jump into some of these other materials as well. All right, let me go ahead and pause the music. Let me look and see if there's any guesses. It looks like Teresa tossed out a guess of 1 amp. Susie Geller put down 0.8. Let's see. Those are the only 2 guesses we got. Well, I have to tell you, the 1 amp guess that Teresa put out is spot on. This has a 1 amp motor in it, so it's going to have a bigger motor by its rating than a lot of the Singer sewing machines that we present on this channel. 1 amp is a lot of get up and go. And yet after this Sew Vac got done tinkering on Kathryn's machine, it was running like a slug. It was just barely turning. It was running very, very slow. And I think she'll be pleased today when we do some of the sew offs. I'm going to give a little pedal to the metal so she can see that renewed strength and that renewed vitality in the machine again. I'll also show you just briefly, this is the sew off that Kathryn sent with the machine. And I don't know if this was after they serviced it or before, but you can get an idea of how bad the machine was stitching. We've got tension issues here. We've got spacing issues on the stitching as far as what looks like it's probably some sort of a zigzag. Here we've got something totally bizarre. You really can't see any stitch definition whatsoever, which means our bobbin case was not doing its job as well, assuming that's the top stitch. I don't know which is the top stitch. I assume this is. So these stitches over here, these 3 columns here, are the stitches that I laid back down after I got done working on Kathryn's machine. You can look at the contrast between these 3 columns and the rest of the stitching on the denim that Kathryn sent with the machine. Quite a difference. And one of Kathryn's big concerns was when she was trying to pull the bobbin thread up, it wouldn't come up. Well, I don't know if it was the place that tinkered on the machine or some other factor, but I told Susie that if you think about it like a clock, the hook timing was off by probably 40%. So instead of it being at the 12 o'clock position, it was almost at the 6 o'clock position on, using a clock as kind of an illustration, if you will. So it was way, way, way off. And all of that's been resolved now. So let me show you the stitches and then see if anybody wants to see a certain stitch laid down, first of all, on this 100% cotton. And then we'll kind of go from there. I'll do my best to show the stitches to you kind of across here. And I'm looking across the room at my laptop, so I'm doing my best to see if I have the camera pointing well. And don't ask me to do a buttonhole. You know I'm not going to do a buttonhole. Ha ha! Well, we got a lot of other cool stitches. Susie's going to get me a screen that I can hang up during live streams that will plug into my laptop, so I'll be able to see very clearly what you all are seeing when I'm pointing the camera. Right now, I'm doing it. It's really difficult to tell if I'm even spot on. So hopefully you were able to see some of those stitches. Hopefully you were able to see some of those stitches. Okay. I saw a big zigzag was one of the stitches that somebody wanted to see. 12. Susie wants to see number 12. Oh, let me give you also another tip on this machine before I forget to mention it. When I sent Kathryn the various pictures of me servicing the machine, one of them showed the top of this off. There's only 2 bolts that hold this in. And then you have to take the handle off, and you can take this entire top piece off to service all the essential parts. I showed Kathryn detailed pictures of all the places that need to be oiled and greased that had never been oiled and greased before. And some of the pictures I sent her, you could just see that grease had just dried up. It was like putty, and it wasn't doing anything to help the machine. And so, but when you put it back on and you reattach that handle and everything, don't over tighten these bolts. You can see how here where the thread is, it dips down like this. it kind of dips down into the machine. If you tighten the top too much, it presses against the mechanism that allows you to change the stitch selections. And all of a sudden, you'll go to grab that stitch selector and try to turn it, and it won't move. You remember we recently had another machine where I had found that the bolt on the front faceplate was missing. So I went to Ace Hardware and got a replacement that it wasn't OEM from the factory, but it was identical in every other way. Unfortunately, it was about 2 millimeters too long. And you saw me during the live stream as I tried to change the stitch selector, and it was jammed. And I thought, oh my gosh, what did I miss? So I backed that screw out on the faceplate, you might remember. And then all of a sudden, the stitch selector was happy as could be. So after the live stream, I cut that bolt down by about 2 millimeters and gave it back to the customer with no issues. But it just shows you how the slightest little difference can all of a sudden affect that machine. And it's kind of like, wow, I didn't expect that, you know? So yeah, if you tighten that bolt here and the bolt here, as you tighten them down, get them snug, but don't over snug them. And as you're tightening them, check your stitch selector and make sure that you can turn it freely like I'm doing right now. Okay? Otherwise, you're going to be like, doggone it, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? So let's lay down a zigzag, and then we'll lay down a number 12 as well, which is a 3-point zigzag. And we'll give Kathryn's machine an opportunity to dance a little bit on this live stream. Okay? All right. And I won't put any music on right now. I want you to be able to hear this machine run. The only complaint I have about this great new home that John gave to Kathryn back in the 1980s is the presser foot, the foot controller cord. The foot controller cord is just a little bit short, and I have to push the machine way close to the edge of this table in order to have it be on the floor. And that's because of the height of the table, but hopefully Kathryn's table that she operates on isn't any taller than this. Otherwise, she might have to make some adjustments. All right, so let's do a zigzag first. And I'll briefly walk you around the machine. Just kind of show you the lay of the land. So on this side of the machine, I don't think the cord will reach that far. Will it reach that far? I'm going to have to move the machine, I think. Hold on a second. I'll move the machine over. So on this side of the machine over here, I don't know if you can see that or not. Let me rotate it a little bit more. On this side of the machine over here, you've got a couple of things that are important to know. One is back where you plug in your power cord over here, there it is. Where you plug in your power cord, you've got a speed selector. So you can either set it on low or you can set it on high. What that's going to do is it's going to take that 1 amp motor, and if you push it on high, it's going to amp up that motor a little bit and give it more power for heavy duty sewing. It's not necessarily going to make the machine that much faster, but it's going to give it more power and more drive down at the needle. So you can either be on low or you can be on high. Your power switch is here. And Susie and I are going to look for an LED light for Kathryn tomorrow when we head down towards Corbin, Kentucky, to the Lowe's down there. They've got a wide selection of light bulbs, and we're going to see if they've got a candelabra style LED light bulb for Kathryn's machine. Over here, you've got a little adjuster with a minus and a plus. And this is going to be for some of those decorative stitches where when you sew them, if you don't quite like the way that they look, you can carefully adjust this up or down to change the way that that stitch displays and how the stitching lays down on the material. Generally, the middle point that it's on right now is going to be where you want to be, but certain stitches, maybe like a stretch straight stitch, you may have to adjust this a little bit so that you can tighten up the appearance of that stitch a little bit. Over here, we've got our clutch that you pull out to wind a bobbin. Just give this a pull. You saw me pull out the middle section here. And then when you're done winding a bobbin, you can push it back in again like that. Okay? Up here, we attach our bobbin. We've got our tensioner where we bring the thread around from left to right here, and can wind a bobbin like that with a clutch disengage. Threading the machine, I'll show you that real quick as well. We're going to come off the top here, and hopefully Kathryn has some of these other spool holders. The only one that came with the machine was this huge one. We really don't need something this big. So she has other sizes of these. She can put a smaller one on here and it'll do just as good of a job of holding that spool of thread horizontally when you're sewing. You're then going to thread it through. There's a tiny little opening right here. You should be able to snap it by, but I just kind of went through this hole, and then you come up. You come around this little tensioner right here, which kind of lifts up. Kind of see that? Put the thread underneath there. And here's the tricky part about this new home a little bit. The tricky part about this new home is generally when you've got a built-in upper tension unit like this, you're going to be threading from right to left. On the new home, you do it opposite. So when you come through this thread point right here, you're going to be going down the left side right between here. You point at it with my my clips. You're going to be bringing the thread right between here. See that? Right between that little space between that metal flange and this take-up arm area, this divider. You go right between there. You drop down. You come underneath the tension spring right there and kind of come back up. And then you're going to thread through the take-up arm from left to right. There's our take-up arm right there. Kind of draw the thread from the back in. And then we're going to drop back down through the same channel. We come through this thread guide right there. We've got another thread guide right there. And then finally, we have another thread guide right here above the needle. You come in from the back, and then you center that thread right on the needle, and then you thread that needle from front to back. I hope that makes sense. So the only tricky part a little bit is normally you're going to thread, once you get to this point, you're going to go right to left. On the new home, you go left to right, and then you finally work your way down to the needle through those various thread points, okay? So just keep that in mind. If you got one, if you've been threading it wrong, you're probably not alone. You're not alone. So, don't be hard on yourself about that. Here's our upper tension adjustment. Again, upper tension adjustment is going to control the stitching on the bottom of the material. This is going to be pulling up to define that lock stitch. The bobbin case down here is going to be pulling down to define the top stitch. This pulls up, this pulls down. It's a constant tug of war, and you got to get that sweet spot. This can be adjusted all the way up to 9. Right now, after making hook adjustments and bobbin case adjustments, we're only a little bit over 6, which is a really good place to be. And we've got some very good stitch balance right now. Over on this side, I'm going to slide the machine over a little bit. Over on this side, we've got a couple of controls that do various things. If we're going to be, excuse me, if we're going to be sewing a straight stitch, number 10, I'm going to go back there. We're going to be sewing a straight stitch, number 10. Yeah, you can see that, sort of. We're going to adjust this controller, which is our stitch width, all the way down to 0, okay? See me turning that with that little white line. We're going to adjust that down to 0 for straight stitching. If we go with that zigzag that I believe Susie wanted to see, then number 11, then we're going to have to adjust the same controller somewhere between 1 to 6. Okay? So that's our stitch width. But it also serves as a dual purpose in being our needle position as well. So if you want a left needle position, you're going to move this for straight stitching all the way to the right, and that needle you'll see is all the way to the left now. If you want a needle position all the way to the left, well, actually, you're not going to have that option. Forget that. You're going to have a far left needle position by turning it here, or moving it all the way back to 0, you're going to have a center needle position for straight stitching. Now, it's totally different when you change your stitch selector from a straight stitch and move into any of the other stitches that require needle swing, okay? So any of these other stitches, we're going to be adjusting this and using it as a stitch width controller. Otherwise, for straight stitching, we're going to be using it in most cases with a center needle position and setting it down on 0. Then our center control here is our stitch length. You can see right now we're set on 4. We can go all the way down to, probably around 0.5, which is the same area we would be if we would do buttonholes, which we'll never do on this channel. So this is our stitch length, our stitch width and needle position. And then we have our stitch selector down here, our stitch selector. And we've got reverse when we want to back tack to finish off a stitch line or something like that. So generally, it's a very simple machine. It's also going to have a free arm capacity. If we take this little accessory thingy off, if I can get it off with one hand, try it like this. Oh, come on. I put you on. I can take you off. Goodness sakes. There we go. So don't do what I did and try to pull it out like we do most time. Just go ahead and pop it up on the end. So you do have a free arm capacity on this machine as well. And with the free arm capacity, you're only going to be able to do probably adult garments. If you move into the smaller realm of children's clothing, this is probably going to be too wide for that. But nonetheless, it is a free arm and it does an excellent job in giving you that capability. I put it on better than I took it off. So I'll lift the presser foot up real quick and I'll just show you this area as well. You see right now we've got our drop-in bobbin. This drop-in bobbin can also be, right now we're using a plastic bobbin, which is what Kathryn sent with the machine. You can just as easily use a metal bobbin on this model 2022 just as well. And what works real well in this machine is going to be a class 11 bobbin like this that goes in a lot of the Japanese machines. This will work very, very nicely. I'll probably send one of these back. And if Kathryn likes the way it sews with the metal bobbins, a lot of people do, then you can always go to Walmart or your local sewing center and pick up some of these bobbins that are designed for a lot of the Japanese sewing machines. Kenmore's use them as well because they were made in Japan. But this class bobbin works real well in there. I better drink some more tea. Maybe have some more Christmas music too. Hold on one second. All righty, you'll notice as well, I forgot to point out, it's the bobbin. The bobbin, when it's inserted correctly, is going to be turning counterclockwise on this machine. You see, if I pull the thread a little bit, it's turning counterclockwise. So when you thread it, you're going to be coming through a point right here at the front and just draw that thread straight to the rear. And if you have a book, it'll show you that in the book as well, but it's always good to know that and just double check. Susie recently sat down to one of her projects in the sewing suite she has here, and all of a sudden discovered that there was bird nesting all over the bottom of the material, went back and checked her threading. And this is a machine that she's been using for 50 years, more than 50 years, and she had missed one thread point. So it never hurts to double check because we can get into a rhythm and rhyme and we can sometimes skip a step without realizing it. Okay. All right. So let's start with, I think someone wanted to see a zigzag, a wide zigzag, and then we'll go into a 3-point zigzag as well. So for a wide zigzag, we're going to have to adjust this control right here all the way over to 6. And again, when you go with a real wide zigzag, realize you might have to make adjustments over here to your upper tension, because the wider you bridge that gap on the zigzag, the less support those threads have because of the gap and the more support they need. So by turning this up a little bit for a super wide zigzag, you may avoid getting some of that loosey-goosey stuff on the bottom. We'll try this first and then we can always adjust it if we have to. So super wide zigzag, we're over on 6. We've got our stitch length on 4, which is the maximum as well. let's try this zigzag, and then we'll go to the 3-point zigzag after that. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Press your foot down. Take up arm is up. I'll close the lid. There we go. All right, let's give this a try. Here we go. All right, I took that really slow. You'll see me go some speedy demon stuff later. Not right now. So all in all, this is our lock stitch on the back. All in all, a very good looking one. But you see a couple points where it's just slightly loose because we went so wide and so long, like right there, right there, right there, right there. We got a couple spots that could have had a little more tightness to them. Let me give this a clip and then we'll look at it closer. But all in all, for having it set where I had it set for all the other decorative stitching, we've got some real good stitch balance as far as the tension, considering the width of this. All right, let me reach across there. All right, let's take a closer look at this. I'm going to adjust my laptop screen a little bit so I can see more clearly. I'm going to put down my reading glasses. I'm trying to hold too much in my hands here. You can see that bobbin case is doing a fabulous job. It wasn't doing that when it came in. And there were hook timing issues as well that were throwing things off. But a really good looking zigzag. We turn it over. This is our lock stitching. All in all, a really good looking zigzag. But a couple of points when you look at them with scrutiny towards the bottom here, you can see where there could have been just a little bit more upper tension to snug that up. You see that on the edge? Right near the peak. And that's a real easy thing to fix. All we do is take our upper tension and we go from probably a little bit over 6 to probably up to 7 if we're going to be doing a lot of super wide, super long zigzag stitching. But for right now, I'm just going to leave the upper tension the way it is, and let's lay down that 3-point zigzag now. And we're going to make a couple of adjustments to do that. First of all, we have to change our stitch selector to stitch number 12. So we'll turn that over that way. And again, whenever you're changing your stitch selector, always make sure your needle is clear of the material. If your needle is down on the material when you're changing your stitch selector, you're going to bend your needle. Even a Schmetz needle will bend if it's down on the material, and that needle bar is trying to pivot left or right to accommodate the stitch selection. It's going to bend the needle, and then all of a sudden you're going to hit the throat plate and you're going to cause damage, and you're going to have more issues than you started with. So make sure your needle is out of the material. We selected the 3-point zigzag, number 12. Now we have to look at our stitch width. We're not going to go all the way to 6 for a 3-point zigzag. We're going to go to right around 4. And then for the stitch length, I'm going to shorten it up quite a bit to get a little bit better definition. I'm going to go from 4 all the way down to about 2. So I changed our stitch length to 2, our stitch width to 4, and our stitch selector is now on 3-point zigzag. So let's give this a go as well. Always make sure your take-up arm, you can see your take-up arm is kind of tucked in there. It's too low right now, so we're going to rotate it up, 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 up to the highest position. You always want to, whenever possible, you want to launch with your take-up arm at the highest position, okay? All right, so let's try this 3-point zigzag. And then we'll jump into some other fun stitching on Kathryn's model 2022. All right, let's see here. Okay, 3-point zigzag, and I'll take this one just a little bit faster. Not super fast, but fast enough. Okay, here we go. Yeah, that was fun. Oh, that's lovely. Lovely. Bobbin case is doing a fabulous job, and so is the upper tension as well. Let's take a look at this 3-point zigzag. And you obviously, when you sew stitches on your machine, or when Kathryn gets gets this machine back in Michigan, she can choose what her settings are. I only chose to do the 3-point zigzag this way, but I could have just as easily gone with a longer stitch or a wider stitch. And the way the stitch displays and presents would have been very different, right? It would have been very different. So you've got a lot of choices when you're sewing on how you want those stitches to present, how you want them to display. I think I did pretty well with choosing the length and width. Probably could have gone a little bit shorter. Yeah, beautiful stitching. Let's turn over and look at the lock stitching. This is our lock stitching now, and we're looking at those two columns. One is the zigzag we did, super wide, super long. And then we're looking at that 3-point zigzag, secondly. Isn't that lovely? What a beautiful stitch. What a beautiful stitch. At least from what I can see on the laptop. I hope you're able to see that. It's always hard looking at a screen across the room and trying to line it up with the camera, you know? But anyway, I think we've got some beautiful stitching so far from Kathryn's machine. It's really quite a happy girl now. And we'll move into some of the other stitching now. We'll lay down some other stitching on this 100% cotton, and then let's move into some of the other materials so we can have our little sewing Olympics, if you will, and put this machine to work. Okay? Did anyone ever guess the history of the New Home Sewing Machine Company? I didn't look at the live chat. Did anyone throw any guesses out there to try to win those Guggenheim shears? I'll look at the live chat, greet some folks, and yeah. And we'll jump into the rest of the sew-offs. All right, let's see who we got. Oh, Teresa got it? Oh, wow. So good morning to Teresa. Good morning to Susie. Not a lot of people in the live chat for the size of the audience, but that's okay. Good morning to Tim. Good morning to Joelle. Joelle from Bakersfield, California. Let's see. Matter of fact, Joelle from Bakersfield, California is the last one that won a pair of those Guggenheim shears, and maybe Joelle can share some of her feelings about the shears as well. She did with me privately, said she absolutely loves them. But anyone that's gotten a pair of those, yeah, share your thoughts, because Guggenheim appreciates the feedback and they listen. Susie gave them some feedback on one of the pairs of scissors, and guess what? They re-engineered the scissors based on Susie's input. So they really are serious about taking care of their customers. They truly are. Truly, truly serious. Good morning to Jenny as well, part of our leadership team. Great to have Jenny here. Let's see who else. Good morning to Rachel and Candido from the great state of New York. Great to have you folks here always. And if I miss somebody, please let me know. If I miss somebody. I'm still scrolling, still scrolling. Still scrolling. Okay. So I think I greeted everybody that's in the live stream. And let me just say, any of you that are in the shadows right now, we've got about 1,360 people watching this live stream right now around the world. Almost 1,400 people. I think we had close to 2,000 before. We had some people drop off, and who knows, maybe they went to McDonald's for breakfast. But we've got a big audience. And let me just say that we don't bite. So if you want to step out and introduce yourself, if you want to step out and share what kind of sewing machines you have, what kind of sewing you do, where you are in the world, what kind of Thanksgiving you had, what's your plan and preparation getting ready for Christmas or Hanukkah and the holidays coming up. We would love to meet you. We would love to welcome you to the Cow Country family. The leaders take such great care of the family. They really, really help you to feel like you're part of us. They help you to feel welcome. They're not there to penalize you. Although there's been a couple of naughty people that have come into our live stream over the years, as some of you can witness, and they were naughty, and then the moderators have to put the hammer down on them. And that's okay too, because we want to keep this family friendly. We want to keep it an environment that is respectful and fun, right? So, but at any rate, if you're in the shadows, when you're ready, step out. We'd love to meet you. We'd love to welcome you, okay? All right, let's do some more sewing on this machine that belongs to Kathryn from the great state of Michigan. So we've got all kinds of stitches to pick from to lay down on this 100% cotton. I'll just show you the stitches again, starting with 22, 21, 20, 19, 18. Come out a little bit. Maybe it'll focus better. There we go. I think it's focusing. Let me see. There we go. Oh, there we go. Now we got it. Now we got it. So I'm just going to go down and write down the numbers that you want to see, either on cotton or some of the other materials we're going to be sewing. Write down the stitch that you want to see. Come on, camera. So those are the stitches we have. If anyone has any particular stitch they want to see go down next on this cotton, please type it in the live chat. I'll be glad to do that for you. Looks like Tim is wanting to see number 1. Okay, cool. Let's do number 1. So we're going to grab our stitch selector and crank it to the left. Okay, there we go. So we're set on stitch number 1. Then we have to decide about the stitch width. And I'm probably going to go leave it right on 4. But on the stitch length, I'm going to shorten that more. I'm going to bring it all the way down to 1. Just above 1, right about there. I think it's right on 1. So I've got the stitch length on 1. I've got the stitch width on 4. And then I picked Tim's stitch right over here, this doodad right there. All right, so let's lay this down and see what we think of this one. And we'll give you a little bit more Christmas music to inspire this model 2022 to do its magic. I gave a little bit more gas to it that time. No, very nice. Very, very nice. That was a great pick, Tim. I really love that stitch. Very, very nice. All right, let's take a look at this stitching, and then I'll put on a little bit more Christmas music. So this is our top stitching right here. We've done 3 columns so far. I'm going to back the camera up a little bit better. I think does better. So that's a stitch that Tim just picked. We turn it like this as well and kind of look at it that way. Yeah, very, very nice. Very, very nice. Turn over, look at that lock stitching. Let's see how our upper tension is doing in maintaining that. Yeah, very, very good. The only one that we've had upper tension issues with so far is that super wide, super long zigzag. Otherwise, that upper tension is doing an excellent job of maintaining stitch integrity. Yeah, very nice. All right, I'm just gonna pick some other stitches to lay down on this cotton, and I'll play some Christmas music while we're doing it, if that's okay. And then we'll move into some of the other materials. Yeah, I think I'm just going to work my way across. I'll work my way across through a number of these stitches. That's nice. I like that one. That's fun racing a little bit sometimes, isn't it? Yeah, very, very nice. Very, very nice. All right, let's move on to the next one. Good, 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 good. Ooh, I like that one. Very, very nice. Beautiful stitching, beautiful stitching. There's a stretch blind hem stitch. Yeah, very nice. Our tension balance is just spot on right now. I'm doing some really, really good balance. Do a couple of the real fancy ones. It stuck a little bit. Let me clip that. We'll try that again. I went a little bit too short. I'm going to pause this real quick. So sometimes you'll make your adjustments. I talked about having the discretion to go longer or wider on some of these more ornate decorative stitch patterns. Sometimes it works really well. Sometimes you'll go a little bit too short, and then that pattern doesn't have enough space to do the overlay, and it ends up creating a little bit of a mess right there. So we're going to pick it up right from there. I'm going to extend the stitch length just a little bit longer than I have it right now. I'm down to probably almost 0.5. So I'm going to bump it up a little bit, give that a little bit more room to work its pattern, and we should be able to finish off this sewing row with a really good looking pattern. Not as tight as I wanted to go, but it's still going to turn out very, very nice. I'm going to set it right there, and we will resume the sewing after I adjust the stitch length. Kind of see where I had it set right here. Had it set down here, probably like around 0.7, 0.8, something like that. We'll just bring it up just slightly, make it a little bit longer. Give it a little bit more room to work. All right, let's give this a try again. Oh, the other thing I didn't show you, and I should have when I had the lid open before, is the other thing that can sometimes cause issues with some of the more ornamental stitches that have that tri-motion, where the feed dogs are moving the material back and forth very rapidly, is a lack of presser foot pressure. So up here on top of Kathryn's machine, we've got our presser foot adjuster right here. They only have two numbers on it, 2 and 3, but as you turn it clockwise, you're going to increase it. So I'm going to bring it up just a little bit heavier, not far, just a little bit heavier, so that tri-motion feed dog has a little bit more pressure down to move that material evenly with such an intricate pattern. Okay? All right, let's give this a try again. Yeah, we had success that time. I'm going to pause the music again. We had success that time, but it's not as tight. It's not quite as tight as I would like to see it. So now that we bumped up our presser foot pressure, I'm going to try sewing that pattern one more time. I'm going to move my stitch length back down a little bit further again and see if we can change the look of that stitch entirely. make it a little bit tighter, make it a little bit more defined, making it a little bit more pronounced. Okay, let's see if we can do that. I believe the issue was our presser foot pressure, and it was just being made worse with the stitch length we had with that lack of presser foot pressure. So let me try it again, see if we can sew it all the way from one end to the other successfully, and just tighten that pattern up just a little bit more. Okay, same pattern, a little bit more presser foot pressure. Let's see if we can get it this time. All right, here we go. There we go. That's what I was aiming for. That's what I was aiming for. That's closer at least. I could probably even go shorter than that, but you get an idea of how it presents. It's really quite a lovely, lovely stitch pattern. And we could tighten it up even more. I'll probably do that on some of the stitches after this to really get that overlay factor to give greater depth and beauty to the stitching. Because some of these patterns, if you make them too skinny with a stitch length that's not tight enough, they just don't present the same. They just don't. All right, I'll move to some of these other patterns. I've got about 3 or 4 more patterns we'll sew, and I won't belabor showing you the stitch selector again. I think you got that down. And we'll see if we can lay these down, and then we'll move into some other materials. Okay, here comes another fun pattern. I like this one a lot. Ooh, I ran out my Christmas music. That's okay. I'll spin it back again. We'll listen to some of the songs again. All right, let's do this next pattern. And this table that I have the machine on wiggles a little bit. So if you see like a shimmy going on, that's why I'm picking the camera up, because as the machine is kicking in that 1-amp motor, it's causing the table to wiggle like this, and it's causing the shot that we're getting to be a little bit harder to see. So you'll probably see me pick up the camera straight away, and we'll launch into this next sew off. There we go. Okay, let's give this a try. Here we go. I only had the foot controller down probably about a quarter of the way. And this machine is definitely not sluggish anymore. So there's the last pattern I just did. Oops, you can't see it. There we go. There's the last pattern I just did. It's kind of a pyramid pattern, isn't it? And we could even make that maybe a little bit tighter. Now that we have that added presser foot pressure, we're able to go shorter on the stitch length and still accomplish the pattern successfully. So if you have a similar issue come up on one of your machines, it doesn't have to be a new home, model 2022. It can be a Bernina. If you all of a sudden are having issues like we did right here, where it was kind of overlaying the same area and that material was not advancing properly with that tri-motion manipulating the material so quickly, bump up your presser foot pressure and you should be able to tighten that pattern up more and still have good material feed, okay? Oh, wait, there we go. Now you can see it. Yeah, lovely, lovely pattern. I like that one a lot. It reminds me of when I was in Saudi Arabia and we were flying back to Germany, and we did a fuel stop in Egypt. And as we came into Egypt, we could see the pyramids from the windows of the plane. Really quite extraordinary. Quite extraordinary. That's kind of what I think of when I see that. And our lock stitching is equally good on the back as well. So we're maintaining really, really good stitch tension control with all of these patterns. Again, the only one we had a little bit of an issue with was that initial super wide, super long zigzag, and we could resolve that very easily by bumping the upper tension up. So some beautiful stitching. Let's do a couple more, and then we'll move into some other materials. I know we've been running for a while now. Yeah, very, very nice. There's our lock stitching on the back. Yeah. I love this one a lot. And there's an opposing one that we're going to do that's a little bit, it's got a little bit of a different shape and configuration to it. But this, I'd call it kind of an elliptical stitch, wouldn't you? It's quite a lovely elliptical style stitch. And the fact that we're generating it with a machine from the 1980s that's all mechanical. There's no computer programming in this machine. It's all mechanical functions with cams. It does just a spectacular job, I would say, of laying down some primo, absolutely drop dead gorgeous stitching. Don't you agree? You know, with our one little presser foot issue, and again, it's a great lesson to learn, isn't it? That's why we do these live streams. You can't do a do-over and fake the audience. You have a little hiccup like this, and you identify what caused it, and then you overcome it. That's all part of the classroom, is learning together and overcoming obstacles and making things better and showing the greatness of the machine, right? This machine truly is great, even though it's a very young vintage machine. It's quite spectacular in the way it stitches. Quite spectacular. There's our lock stitch on the back. Yeah. We'll do this last stitch, and then we'll move into some other materials and give you a chance to see the strength of this machine too, going through leather and a variety of other sew-offs. And I see my bobbin is getting a little bit low, but I think we've got enough to finish the race. I believe we do. All right, let me get this into place. We'll do this last stitch, and then we'll jump into some other sew-offs. Oh, I like that one a lot. I don't know about you, but I love this. I like this one even better than the first one. Isn't that's something, isn't it? Can you see that? There we go. You look at it like that too. It's kind of like looks like a little. Let me clip the threads. You can look at this. It's kind of like a little mountain range. So we did a wide variety of stitching on this 100% cotton with stiffener, and the last two stitches are probably two of my favorites. I kind of show all the stitching like this to you. I'm looking over at my laptop across the workbench, and I hope I have it lined up pretty well. Yeah, so if you've been looking at your machine from the early 1900s or the 1920s or 30s or 40s or 1950s, and you've said, I'll never ever consider a newer machine like from the 1980s, take a look at this stitching and reconsider your position, because it is a gorgeous, gorgeous stitcher, isn't it? Really a gorgeous stitcher. Yeah, very, very nice. Lock stitching, equally gorgeous lock stitching as well. So we found our sweet spot right now for most of the sewing we're going to be doing. We found our sweet spot with that upper tension set, just a little bit over 6. We're getting some really, really good definition. The only exception is when we get down to that super wide, long zigzag, we would have to bump it up a little bit, wouldn't we? But all in all, getting some really, really good stitch definition and some great tension balance between the upper tension and the bobbin case working together. Yeah, very, very lovely. Lovely stitching. All right, let's move to another material now. I've got denim, which is what the machine came with. So maybe I can move into some denim. And then we'll go to the lighter side. We'll do some velvet. And yeah, we'll see where else it leads us. But I'll get some denim underneath there right now. We're only going to do 2 layers of denim. This has a 1-amp motor, so it could do probably 8 to 10 layers, 8 to 10 layers of denim. So we're not really pushing it as far as we could. Matter of fact, why don't we do this? We're at 2 layers. That's kind of an insult to this model 2022. Let's fold it in half and go up to 4 layers of denim. 4 layers of denim. So the equivalent of probably a seam on the cuff or something like that. And we'll lay down some stitching on it other than just a straight stitch. We'll do a straight stitch, but we'll do some other stitching on this denim as well, just to show off the power of this 1-amp motor in Kathryn's machine. Okay? We put on some more music. I'm going to drink some more tea, and then we'll move forward with this. All right, I'm going to go ahead and lay down a straight stitch, which we haven't done yet during this live stream. I'll lay down a straight stitch, and then we'll lay down a zigzag through these 4 layers as well. And then we'll move into some of the more ornamental stitches to do this denim as well. 4 layers of it. Originally, I showed you somewhere around here. Where did I put it? This is what Kathryn was getting initially, and this was only 2 layers of denim. No, I'm wrong. It's only 1 layer of denim. It's only 1 layer of denim, and it was just atrocious as far as the quality of stitching over here. Now, this is the stitching that I laid down after the work was done, and that's quite lovely. That's quite lovely over there. But now we're going to be taking it times 4. We only had a single layer of denim. Now we're going to be trying 4 layers of denim. We'll do a straight, we'll do a zigzag, and then we'll lay down some of the fancier stitches on it as well, just so that if Kathryn has some heavier sewing, she knows that the machine can handle that, especially after being serviced at the level that it was in the workshop. The other thing I'll do real quick to hedge our bet is I'm going to open up the lid and I'm going to increase our presser foot pressure even a little bit higher because we're dealing with 4 layers of denim now. I'm going to crank it over a little bit further, a little bit further, a little bit further. Right about there, I think should do it, hopefully. Okay, so do that as you're changing materials and thicknesses. Adjust your presser foot pressure if your machine gives you that option. Go up if you're going thicker or multiple layers. Go down if you're sewing something like velvet or silk or satin. Reduce your presser foot pressure then, okay? All right, let's give this a go. And I'm not going to put on the music right now because I want you to hear this model 2022 going through these 4 layers of denim. That 1-amp motor's got more than enough grit to get the job done. We just have to give it the opportunity, okay? All right, straight stitch, and then we'll move into some other stitching. Here we go. And I went real slow on that. I barely had the presser foot pressure. I barely had the foot controller pushed down. Barely had it down. All right, get my take-up arm all the way up. Yeah, we got some good balance on that. Looks like we could go up a little bit on upper tension for that straight stitch because we're going through so many layers of denim. But all in all, a good-looking stitch, and we probably are doing about 10 to 12 stitches per inch with our current settings. I'm not going to show it to you right now. I'll just kind of lay it there so you can get a glimpse of it. We'll lay down the other stitching, and then we'll look at all of it together, okay? We'll look at all of it together. So let's move into a zigzag now. And this 2022 model does not have a hyperextension on the presser foot lever. In other words, when you push the presser foot lever on the back of the machine, there it is right there. You see where I'm touching it with my finger. When you raise it up, it only goes to that height. You can't push it outside of the range like on some of the other machines I've shown you, the Kenmores, the Japanese ones. So you're going to have to gauge how thick you can go and still move that material based on the clearance that you have with the current presser foot the way it is, okay? All right. Let me do this. Let me get we'll get ourselves set for the zigzag now. So first of all, we have to change our stitch selector from a 10 over to 11. And now we have to decide on the stitch width. We're not going to go all the way to 6 like we did before. We're going to go to right around 4.5. And then we're going to try to go to, let's see. Let's go to right around 3 on stitch length. So stitch width is going to be 4.5. Stitch length is going to be right around 3. We'll lay down a zigzag on these 4 layers of denim. And then we'll move into a couple of other stitches after that. Okay? Where's my camera pointing? There it is. Yeah, so far you can see how easy it is for this machine to get through 4 layers. Like I said, I'm pretty confident this machine could handle 8 to 10 layers of denim. I don't know that I would do it every day, but it can certainly get the job done. Okay? All right, here we go. Yeah, very nice. See how our tension did? Yeah, we maintained really good tension on the lock stitch as well, because we didn't go quite as wide. We didn't go all the way up to 6 like we did on that initial super wide, super long zigzag. We got some really good looking lock stitching, both on the straight stitch. Straight stitch, we could be a little bit tighter, but all in all, it's good. And the zigzag as well. Trying to get the right lighting so you can see it there. Let me give that thread a clip. All right, so straight stitching and zigzag. There we go there. 4 layers of denim. Flip it over, look at the lock stitching. I may have done that backwards. Anyway, we're looking at the lock stitching and the top stitching, and both of them are looking really, really good. Now what we're going to try to do is go through a more ornate stitch and see if we can maintain the stitch integrity going through that thicker material, 4 layers of denim. Okay. I don't think we sewed this stitch. I'm going to try this one. All right, I'm going to pause the music again. This stitch we didn't do yet, and I think it's kind of an EKG stitch. So let's give this a try. I did make an adjustment off camera of bringing the stitch length down to just above 1, and the stitch width is still at 4. Otherwise, everything else is set up exactly the same way. So let's give this a try. I got a piece of I've got a piece of the denim thread caught underneath the presser foot. It's kind of pulling the material. There we go. Oh yeah, I like this one a lot. It almost resembles a 3-point zigzag, but not quite. It's not quite that. It's a little bit different. Just a little bit different. Yeah, really quite lovely. We can angle the camera down and give you a glimpse of that. Very nice. Very, very nice. How do we do on our lock stitching? Yeah, I would say that on this stitch pattern, we might have to bump up our upper tension just a little bit to accommodate the needle movement. But all in all, a real good looking lock stitch as well. Kind of looking over my shoulder, so hopefully I'm getting the camera relatively lined up with that. Let's do one more stitch off on this denim, because denim is a very popular material. And I would guess since a piece of denim came with the machine, when Kathryn shipped it, she probably sews on denim quite a bit. So let's see if we can lay down something a little bit more ornate on this, and we'll do it to this Christmas tune, all right? It's actually better when you back it up. It's clearer. All right, what should I put down? Let's see here. All right, if you were paying attention, you notice that I was pretty bold. And I say I was pretty bold because generally going through this much denim, 4 layers of denim, you're not going to be trying to do stitching that requires that tri motion because it's having to take those 4 layers of denim and with the feed dogs manipulate it back and forth like this, along with the needle swing at the same time. But I decided to do it anyway and actually went shorter than I had planned to do. I should have made this a little bit longer, but I went shorter with this particular stitch pattern. So the machine is handling a task that would probably cause other machines to choke up and stumble very, very nicely. Very, very nicely. This is a tough sew off through 4 layers of denim when you're incorporating that tri-motion function. The tri-motion is manipulating that material very, very quickly, back and forth, and yet we maintain some gorgeous, gorgeous stitch integrity through all those layers of denim. All those layers of I've also been beating up this Schmetz needle pretty good. There's our lock stitching on the back, some good lock stitching as well with this last stitch. Very, very nice. So we've proven that the machine has strength. We've proven that the machine has precision. We've proven now that the machine has renewed speed as well. Some of these sew-offs I've sewn pretty fast. Now we're going to go to the light side. After running through all these paces already, on camera and off, all of this, and just this, and off camera, all of this, and this, it gives you a new appreciation for a young vintage machine and what it's capable of doing, doesn't it? Really quite a spectacular machine that John bought for Kathryn back in the 1980s as a special gift. And I'm so grateful that she found me. I'm so grateful that she and her family were able to make a trip down to Kentucky. And I didn't have the privilege of meeting her, but she shipped the machine from Lexington. And now I'll be able to ship it back to Michigan, and she'll be able to put this to use on projects leading up to Christmas. So it doesn't get much better than that. But I think what I'll do now is I'll move into some velvet sewing. Let's do some velvet sewing. I got 2 different types of velvet. I've got this green velvet that has a real heavy polyester backing on it. So we're going to need that extra presser foot pressure to move this material reasonably evenly over the feed dogs and underneath the presser foot. We've got 2 layers of that, and then I've got a single layer of this red velvet ribbon material. I'll let the audience pick whether you want me to sew off on the green or the red. It's up to you. I think the green would be an advantage. I'm kind of giving you a bias because I have 2 pieces of that and would be able to see the stitching on the back a little bit more clearly. But the red is equally beautiful. Maybe we can stitch off on that as well. But I'll see what y'all are saying as far as red versus green. And we'll go from there. And it looks like Teresa's leaning towards the green. Cool. I like that. And I might stitch off on the red too because it's really gorgeous. Susie said she was back. She must have had to step out with the puppies or a package or something. All right, let's get this green down. And we'll try one of the fancy stitches on this green because that kind of fits with the Christmas holiday, doesn't it? See if we can lay down a fancy stitch on this. Let's see here. going and going and going and going and going and going and going. I think I'll do the building block one. The building block one is a favorite of mine. I'll just shorten up that stitch length just a little bit so we can tighten it up a little bit. We'll try laying it down a fancier stitch on this velvet material. See how the camera's lined up? Trying to find the right angle. The lighting's kind of weird. Part of it is we don't have an LED bulb in this machine yet. I'm hoping we can find one before I ship it back. Hoping I can find one before we ship it back, because the lighting right now on the bed is just really, it's really quite poor, isn't it? Hopefully Susie and I can find one tomorrow. All right, let's do this fancier building block stitch on this velvet material. We've done stitching on 4 layers of denim. We've done stitching, a wide variety of stitching on cotton. Now we're going to try the lighter side of things. And because this is slippery stuff, I'm going to leave the presser foot pressure where it is. Remember we made that adjustment up here on top? We bumped it up probably to about 2.5. We're going to leave it on 2.5 right now. And hopefully that'll give us some good even feed on this slippery material. I'm just curious if I were to add more light, if that would help. Hold on a second. That does kind of help, doesn't it? That's without it. And that's with it. So you can see we really have a need for a different light bulb on this machine, don't we? Really have a need for a different light bulb. I'll try leaving the light there, seeing if you're able to see the stitching a little bit better as we're going down. If my battery runs out, I know Susie has more batteries. So, all right, let's give this a try. This is a building block stitch, as I call it. And we'll see how we do on these 2 layers of velvet material. All right, here we go. I think I'm going to want to go shorter than that. We might try it again. Yeah, it's a lovely stitch. Don't get me wrong. It's a lovely stitch. I like it. I like it a lot. Really quite lovely on this velvet material. But I probably will do another fancy stitch, and I'll make it a little bit shorter so we get a little bit more definition on it. With some lovely, lovely top stitching. Try to go like this so you can see it. And some lock stitching as well. No loopiness. We got some real good, and we got some real good feed too, because our presser foot pressure was a little bit higher to feed this slippery material. All right, let's try a different stitch on it now, and I'm going to shorten it up even a little bit more. Hopefully I don't go overboard, and then we'll have feed issues like we did earlier, but I like them when they're tight and they're kind of overlaid, don't you? All right, a little bit more music. I have no idea how long we've been running. How long we've been running? Almost 2 hours. Gosh, our time goes so quick together, doesn't it? All right, here goes another stitch. I think you'll like this one a lot. Yeah. Yeah. We don't have any speed issues anymore, Kathryn. She's a get up and goer. Now, I could even go on a little bit shorter on that, but that's a lovely stitch. Let me show it to you closer up. It's a lovely, lovely stitch. I love that stitch. Beautiful. Here's our other side. Very, very nice. Very nice. There's something special about ribbon material for me. I just think it speaks of Christmas, doesn't it? It gives you that holiday feeling when you see some beautiful stitching like this laid on this ribbon material. But I'm also very fond of red. Red is one of my favorite colors. So I think we should also try a stitch line maybe with the red as well and see what we think of that in contrast. But this machine is just sewing better than a Swiss watch right now, isn't it? So we'll see if we can zip down some of the red material. It's going to be a little bit trickier with a single layer. We won't have as much room for that stitch knot, but we should be okay, I think, because I'm going to be sewing a little bit shorter on it. Okay, so a little bit more canon music, I believe, and we'll do this last sew off on the velvet material. Yeah, very nice. It's incredibly tricky to sew a single piece of material like this when it has that polyester backing on it. If any of you have sewn with polyester type back materials, they're about as slippery as ice. And even though we've got the pressure foot pressure up, we're dealing with a very ornate stitch, and it's manipulating the feed dogs. It's a lot of needle movement. And so I think we executed a very, very good looking stitch. But if I were going to be stitching a single layer of this, I'd put some sort of a stiffener on it, even if it was the wash away stuff or the tear off stuff or whatever, just to give it a little bit more stability. So we would have even a greater clarity of stitch. Right now we've got, I would say, an excellent stitch, but it can always be better. And I think a big factor is we were trying to move this material over the feed dogs with a great deal of machine movement, with the feed dog movement, the needle movement. And the result is you sometimes see, I see a little bit of an opportunity for making it better. All right, let me give this a clip and we'll take a look at this. And then we'll move into our final phases of Kathryn's model 2022. All right, there I am. And also sewing something like this, I didn't mention it to you, but you pretty much know it's a given. I'm sewing with a Schmetz 9014 needle. And for sewing a single layer of velvet material with a polyester backing, we should be dealing with a much smaller needle, probably a size 80. maybe even a size 75. It's kind of like sewing with a harpoon through a material like this. But Kathryn's machine did an excellent job of managing it nonetheless. Excellent job. A little bit of a hiccup on this end right here, and that was a feed factor. Our lock stitching, beautiful lock stitching. We managed some really good tension with very little space to center that knot. You can just catch a glimpse of that polyester. Polyester is a booger to sew, isn't it? It really is a booger to sew. Yeah, beautiful stitching. So single layer of velvet material, polyester backing. Some really good results. I'm pleased with that. Some really, really good results. Then we had the 2 layers of velvet material. That extra layer really gave us an edge to execute even a higher precision stitch. You look at it from here, you can see the precision of that stitching. Same needle, same settings pretty much, but we had that extra thickness to allow that knot to center itself and to give us a little bit better stitch clarity. Absolutely beautiful stitching. So far during this live stream, I'll take out the red ones because I did those off camera. But we've done all of this. We've done the velvet on 2 different layers, 2 different types of velvet. We've done the 4 layers of denim, and then we did all of these stitches on this single layer, or excuse me, 2 layers of 100% cotton with a stiffener. Now we're going to move in the realm of canvas. I'd like to stitch just a little bit of canvas material because that is a material that people sometimes will go to. I actually left my snaps on there so you can see it's a genuine U.S. Army grade canvas shelter half. These are some of the snaps where you would snap that shelter half together to get shelter if you're out in the field, protect yourself from the wind or the heat or whatever it is. We're going to be sewing right down the middle of those 2 snaps and laying down some stitching on these. How many layers do we have? 2 layers of canvas. 2 layers of canvas material. All right, get that down. Hopefully we can get by the snap okay. I didn't check the clearance. I'll take it kind of slow just in case. And I'm going to keep my little light on for right now because it really seems to brighten up that sewing space quite a bit, doesn't it? Quite a bit. All right, so 2 layers of U.S. Army grade canvas. And I'm going to kind of pick a stitch to lay down on it. What should I choose here? Yeah, this is a good one. I'm going to try this one right here, number 7. This camera is having focus issues today, isn't it? There we go. That's a little bit better. All right, let's try stitch number 7 on these 2 layers of canvas. All right, here we go. Oh, I should check my stitch length. I don't want to go too short on this canvas because canvas is a real dense material. I'm going to lengthen the stitch just a little bit. I'm bringing it up just a little bit beyond 1. And that should give us enough space to move the material evenly, hopefully. All right, are you ready? 2 layers of canvas. Here we go. All right, we're past the snaps. I can breathe a sigh of relief. I'm going to speed it up now a little bit to show Kathryn again that renewed speed. I'm not going to go max, because this is a heavy overlay stitch. We've got a lot of overlay needle movement, but I'll see if I can speed it up just a little bit. All right, let's stop right there. Bring that needle all the way up. Oh yeah, very nice. That was the correct stitch, I think, to do on this canvas, because canvas has a real high piercing threshold. We're going through 2 layers of it. It's Army grade stuff, okay? It's Army grade stuff. You can have it out in the field as I did in Saudi and other places in Germany, and it can go through all the different elements, and it doesn't affect it because it's just built like a tank. And we really were able to execute a fairly complex overlay stitch and maintain some really good stitch integrity. Let's take a closer look at it on these 2 layers of canvas. And then I'll send this canvas back to Michigan so Kathryn can try stitching on it herself. All right, let's see if I can get the right angle. Isn't that a beautiful stitch? And again, that's 2 layers of US Army grade canvas. Very, very nice. Very nice. Come back a little bit and kind of hold it so the camera can get its focus. Yeah, beautiful stitching. We'll turn it over and look at the lock stitching. Here, let's go like this. So on this lock stitching through 2 layers of canvas, we might, if we were going to be sewing canvas all day long, we might want to bump up that upper tension just a little bit. Overall, we've got good stitch presentation, but we could make it better with just a little bit more pull up from the upper tension unit. Tighten those stitches up just a little bit more. Plus, I was sewing rather fast towards the end, and that gives it less time to react. But all in all, it did a very good job in managing that sew off. Not nearly as good as the top stitching. So that tells us that we have a tension thing that we would have to address of bumping it up a little bit. But all in all, some beautiful stitching as I flip back and forth between them. Some beautiful, beautiful stitching. Okay. So I've got other sew-offs I could do, but I think I'll wrap up this live stream. I'm getting really low on bobbin thread. I do want to sew leather. I want to get leather underneath the presser foot here and see if we can zip around on it a little bit and have some fun. And then we'll wrap up this live stream. We've had a great, I think we've had a great live stream to showcase this new home model 2022. And I didn't read what Teresa wrote, but if Susie said she won, she won. But I'll share a couple more facts about the new home sewing machine company, so that if for some reason Teresa didn't touch on it, you'll know more about that company that New Home came from, because there was a progression of companies that led eventually to New Home. Okay, let me put on my reading glasses. Okay, so here, I'll come into the shot because you haven't seen me the whole live stream. There I am, wearing my Kentucky shirt and my blue glasses. Okay, well, you'll see this much of me anyway. So the predecessor of the New Home company was the Gold Medal Sewing Machine Company. Isn't that cool? That's a cool name, isn't it? So before New Home was the Gold Medal Sewing Machine Company. It was owned by Johnson Clark and Company of Orange, Massachusetts. and was established around 1860. So that company, the gold medal company, came onto the scene only a short time after Singer. And Singer's always bragging about coming online in 1851. Well, the gold medal sewing machine company that eventually became New Home came online only about 9 years later, less than a decade after Singer came into the picture. What would become New Home was already there. And you might remember that some of the New Home machines used a certain animal as their trademark. Does anyone remember what the animal is? What is the animal that New Home became known so well for? It became so well known for this. I'm going to read about it shortly. So if you guess quickly, you'll get it. Otherwise, I'm going to read it before you guess it. So about 1882, the company was reorganized and renamed the New Home Sewing Machine Company. So the original roots of New Home go back to 1860, but the actual company came into existence right around 1882. And it became the New Home Sewing Machine Company. It was one of a number of companies that started after the disorganization of the Singer Wheeler and Wilson Grover Baker sewing machine combination in 1877. If you didn't know it, Singer sometimes did naughty things. And there were a lot of lawsuits going on back in the late 1800s between Singer, between Wheeler and Wilson, between Grover and Baker, another sewing machine maker that hardly is even known. But a lot of these companies had the origin of coming up with the first practical sewing machine, and they were fighting over who would get rights to it. And so a lot of that disorganization where they were trying to monopolize the market went into the courts. And that's when New Home was just coming on the scene. All this litigation, all this fighting, all this scrapping over who would get the rights to say this and that. And at any rate, the New Home sewing machines were very popular in 1878. 1878, the company was successfully selling around 48,000 sewing machines a year. Now, that's not a lot compared to Singer, but they were making 48,000 sewing machines. And like the domestic sewing machine company, a lot of the earlier New Homes were handmade. They would actually assemble them manually with people instead of automating the process. So you can only make so many sewing machines when you're doing it by hand. And they were making right around 48 to 50,000 a year. In 1879, they bumped it up a little bit. They were selling around 55,352 machines. And in 1880, they were making almost 400 sewing machines per day. So you can do the math. I'm not a math person, you know that. But if they were making by 1880, they were making around 400 per day times 365 days a year. What is that, about 1.2 million, something like that? I hope I'm not closer. All of a sudden, you guys are going to hold me accountable for doing math, and I don't do it. But they really stepped up their production quite a bit in the latter 1880s. They were making vibrating shuttle machines. They were making rotary sewing machines. They were making some in the case. They were making some in tables. They eventually moved into an inscription on the bed plate. And let's see if anybody got it. The animal that I was going towards, and it looks like nobody guessed it. I don't think anybody guessed it. If somebody did, correct me, please. But the animal that became infamous with the New Home brand was the greyhound. The greyhound dog. You know what greyhound I'm talking about. And they incorporated the word fast as lightning because their machines were fast. And now Kathryn's is fast again after Workshop Magic. So yeah, if you ever see any of the really older New Homes, and I presented some of this channel, you'll see that right in the middle of the bed is generally going to be a greyhound dog. A greyhound dog. Oh, and I got it wrong a little bit. Along with the Greyhound dog, it said light running new home. I thought it was lightning. Lightning would be even cooler, but it was light running new home. And that was usually badged right on the bed of the machine. Eventually, new home, right around 1927, new home merged with another company that you've heard of before on this channel. It's called the Free Sewing Machine Company. Does anyone remember where the Free Sewing Machine Company was based? I drove through this state on my trip recently to Wisconsin, if that gives you a hint. The Free Sewing Machine Company merged with New Home right around 1927, and they were based in, come on, folks, where were they based? They were based in Illinois, land of Lincoln, is where the Free Sewing Machine Company was based, primarily. Yeah, trying to see if there's anything else that I wanted to share along those lines. So the last thing I'll share with you is the demise of New Home, which came about in the 1950s. The market was getting saturated by Japanese machines, right? The Japanese machines were coming in. They were priced much lower than the American competitors. And it was right around 1953 that the Free Sewing Machine Company and New Home that had merged with them merged with the National Sewing Machine Company, and then eventually was absorbed by Janome. Janome absorbed a lot of the American brands, and that was right around 1957. So going into the 1950s, a lot of the American-based sewing machines started to fade, including New Home, and they were absorbed by Japanese companies, primarily Janome. Okay? So I don't know how much of that Teresa went into. I'm sure she did a fine job, but she'll have her choice. She already has a pair of the 9-inch Guggenheim shears. You might remember when we gifted to Teresa and Tim a 99K13 knee-controlled Singer machine and also a featherweight back in Thorpe, Wisconsin, at the Torpedo Restaurant, which is a fabulous restaurant. We also gifted Teresa and Tim a pair of the 9-inch professional tailoring shears by Guggenheim. So I'm guessing that Susie and Teresa will put their heads together on the other duplicate Guggenheim products that Susie has, along with the 11-inch Guggenheim shears that Stephen and the founders of Guggenheim just sent us. And the ladies will settle on the pair that Teresa wants, and we will ship those off to Wisconsin in the next couple of weeks. Okay? So hopefully you know more about New Home than you did now between what Teresa shared and what I supplemented, and you can appreciate the depth and the richness of this company and why this machine is so significant in the history of sewing machines. The New Home brand has a proud history, a proud legacy, and also with this being, excuse me, also with this machine being gifted to Kathryn by John back in the 1980s, it has that even added significance and sentimental value. Okay? All right, we're going to do our final sew off now. I'm going to try to pick a stitch that will look nice on this 100% cowhide. And then we will finally wrap this live stream up, because I know you guys got things to do. And I know Susie and I have things to do. And obviously, with us being down to about 5 or 6 people, the almost 2,000 people that were with us through a good bulk of this live stream finally said, all right, this is really cool. We'll be back, but we got to go. We got to go, because we don't expect live streams to go hours, but it does here because we have so much fun, don't we? Yeah, we do. Ah! All right. Let me move the camera back over, and we'll do our final sew off on this genuine cowhide. We're going to be sewing in a circle. I'll see if I can find some good music to put on to do this to. And I'll do something other than Christmas music, I promise. Something else. What else do I have? Ragtime, Royal Classic, German polka. Boy, wouldn't that be a hoot? I'll do this to German polka since I was just back in Wisconsin. And polka is a big deal there, along with beer. Beer and polka is like Wisconsin, even more than cheese. So I'll do the final Sew Off in a Circle to some polka music. Yeah, why not? All right, let me get us going. I'm going to have to move my light. There's not enough room. Opa! All right, let's see if I can get this set up here. All right, here we go. I'm still going, folks. I'm still going. All right, I'm going to stop right there and switch stitches. All right, here we go. Oh, boy. All right, we're still going. We're still going. All right, I'm going to stop right there. I think we're pretty low on bobbin thread, but I had a little bit of fun with this. And this is a genuine cowhide. It's probably about 3 to 4 ounces of leather. And we laid down a 3-point zigzag. Then we laid down the little snaky thing, which I thought would be a nice complement to it. Now to get all my threads cut. We almost ran out of bobbin thread, but not quite. Looks like I sewed over my threads a couple of times. Come on, buddy, let go. Let go there, buddy. There we go. So with a 1-amp motor, this new home with such a proud legacy has demonstrated a wide field of sew-offs with a great deal of success. This is our sewing in a circle, and this is a very complex stitch here, and yet we were able to do it even maneuvering this, this leather in various circles and lay down some absolutely gorgeous stitching. Let me stand up and see if I can get even a better shot of it for you. Back up the camera a little bit more. Some absolutely gorgeous stitching by this new home model 2022. And again, not a light sew off. If I show you from the edge, that's the leather that we just went through right there. Probably almost 4 ounces of leather. You see it from the side. And laid down some absolutely drop dead gorgeous stitching. Lock stitching, equally beautiful. Beautiful lock stitching as well through these 4 ounces of genuine cowhide. So between the stitching here, I'll take the camera, see if I can even give you a different perspective. And we did it to polka music. That's got to be worth something. Absolutely gorgeous stitching. I got my little light here too. Aha! Look at the nap on that leather too. You can tell right away it's not a light leather. You can make a nice pair of boots or a purse or a bag or who knows what out of this stuff. And even on the lock stitching, it maintained beautiful integrity. And I was sewing relatively fast, not nearly as fast as this machine will go now, but some pretty good stitching, pretty good rate. So real quick again to capstone what we've done on this live stream. We just got done sewing in a circle with this lovely genuine cowhide, sewing a variety of different stitches. Some even more complicated than others. Here, we'll add this light to it, but that helps a little. There we go. And we sewed U.S. Army grade canvas, 2 layers of that. And we sewed a single layer of velvet with a polyester backing, 2 layers of velvet with some very ornate ornamental stitches, 4 layers of genuine denim, laying down a wide field of stitching on that as well. And then we went through almost every stitch on the machine, I think, and we went through the 2 layers of cotton with the stiffener. So not a bad sew-off Olympics. Not a bad sew-off Olympics as well, if you look at it from the side. This was all during the live stream. And you'll see other places where they'll do 1 stitch off with a machine and then they'll try to sell it for $1 million. At Cow Country, we try to give you the real deal. And in the process of giving you the real deal, we also make it look really easy too. So God bless all of you guys. I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving and that you're getting ready for the holidays, not by buying a bunch of stuff necessarily, but by planning special events that will leave really, really significant memories of time with people that you care about, family, friends, and others. And also remembering the real reason for the season. As we approach Christmas, I always love to quote, I believe it was Dr. Seuss that said in the original story of Grinch or The Grinch, he said, he stood there puzzling and puzzling more and scratched his head. How could it be so? It came without ribbons. It came without tags. It came without packages, boxes, or bags. Then the Grinch thought of something he had not thought of before. Maybe Christmas perhaps doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas perhaps means a great deal more. So with that, I bid you adieu and thank the leadership team for taking such good care of the family. Our family was huge today. It's only the people that really count that are here right now. We're down to a small little circle of friends, and hopefully our other friends will eventually join that smaller circle and stick with us to the very end. I get it. It's a long live stream, but we cover so much and we learn so much together and we learn so much from each other too. So there you go. Okay, I'll wrap up with Christmas music. Why not? Here we go.